Thanks to that storm, we had a pleasantly chilly night back here. The breeze is such a relief. Unfortunately, all of our stuff is pretty sopping wet just from the humidity yesterday, because while the temperatures dropped, sadly the storm did not get rid of that. At least for the moment, all the storms are west or south of us, so we may be okay, and we have a few more days of cooler weather before things potentially get warm again. And even better, it looks like we have a coffee shop as we pass through Ottawa this morning. We had a little bit of, well, we actually had a good amount of traffic noise last night. I slept with my earplugs in, and there is a train track nearby that has been honking pretty much constantly. But if we can get more spots like this along the way, I am happy to have a secure spot. My interactions along the way tend to color my kind of future planning for the next couple of days. For example, when the UMC churches were being so nice to let me stay there, I was more inclined to ask at churches. When that nun kind of rudely told me to leave immediately, that made me shy away from it. Same thing, we asked a police department at one of these small towns a while back and just got told to check Google. It was one of those towns that had no services or anything, and I was just looking to set up in a park or somewhere around there. But this does have us predisposed towards asking city halls and fire departments. I know Zach back in Ohio, he had some luck doing that also. I just in general don't like sitting up where I'm visible. This one was kind of perfect, and that's why we reached out. You can see all the people driving by, they had no idea we were back there. As far as today, we have a busy walk into town. Unfortunately, it is a weekday. Then we have Mugshot Coffee, which per the nice fire people is really, really good. We're gonna dodge a couple of homeless people, again, per the fire folks. And then we will be on this Flint trail, which will get us another 4 or 5 days and 120 miles down the road. Jen is very much excited for it. It is another rail trail. We've been told it is quite nice. I don't mind the farm roads like what we did yesterday quite as much. Honestly, it is easier to get water on the farm roads sometimes than on some sort of a rail trail, just because, you know, you're going by houses and things are accessible. Sometimes those trails are back in the fields. Everybody seems to say that the western part of Kansas is going to be brutal. We shall see. I just take it a day at a time. And weather-wise, we know there's going to be more heat, but there's manageable heat and there's unmanageable heat, and we can still muddle by somehow. Apparently, the last heat wave here, the heat index was 120, if you believe the fire department guy. We saw about 106 where we were per my weather app. It was hot, but we haven't even had to pull the trigger of, night hiking for long periods of time. I would prefer to avoid that, partially because when you're along a road like this, I'm less trustful of people driving at night. Old folks don't see as well. Sometimes you get more drunks. And if we were going to do that, we would need to have a little different equipment as far as having one of those like runner rigs that light up. Looking ahead, there is a town that has, at least in the past, allowed camping. You got to remember, there's usually only 1 or 2 people a year trying to do this trail. This year it's been heavier with 5 or 6. Most of them are doing other things that just kind of crosses the ADT, but this is a much busier year. But as a result, yeah, a city might have said yes to somebody in 2020, but it's not like they have a constant supply of people coming by asking. So you just don't know what you're going to get. I get more worried about where we're going to camp, etc., out in the farm fields if we're in an extended section. But generally, whatever I'm imagining is less workable than reality on the ground. There's always some option or another. This was another thing. We've heard of VFW posts allowing people to camp. I've yet to contact them. I did look at this one, but if you see right behind them, that's a train track. So even if they said yes, that would have been kind of a rough overnight. Jen has been stressing inordinately about running out of food, despite the fact we are fairly civilization adjacent for most of this. So we're going to grab a couple of snacks before she finally turns me loose in the coffee shop, which I really need this morning. And one quick pit stop for a very reasonable amount of candy and beef jerky, no matter what Blondie says later. We are now looking for the coffee shop. The fire guy from last night drove by, honked, and then called Jen and accused her of ignoring him. There are multiple coffee options in this town, but fire crew confirmed that Mugshots is where we want to go. Kind of cool seeing the flood walls. A few of them had to be closed in the Mississippi recently, I saw. And that explains the flood wall. So we know it's around here somewhere, but it's not apparently accessible from the front of the street. There is seriously not even a sign on the main street, but we found it.
Good morning.
So that was really, really, really good coffee, other than Jen didn't let me drink enough of it. And now we are off the happy farm roads and on to some sort of a rail trail again. Woohoo! So we are going to be on this until Harrington or so, about 119 miles away. Yet again, what the difference a day makes, huh? And sadly, they're still building part of the trail here, so we get about 5 miles on the road. Apparently they have a really, really busy rail line. That was what we were hearing last night. So they're having to build a bridge over the top, and because of ADA requirements, we were just talking to one of the guys back there. They have to build these massive hills on either side to make sure the slope's not too steep. One of these things is not like the others. I am just going to assume this is a preview of Western Kansas. Which, funny thing, maintenance guy back there, when we were talking, we were saying, oh yeah, and then we take this, and eventually it dumps us in Western Kansas, and everybody says it's absolutely horrible. And you know how I joke that everywhere we go, everybody says everywhere else is really the bad spot, and there it gets a bad rep. His thing coming from Western Kansas was, oh, Western Kansas isn't that bad, but Eastern Colorado, oh, that's bad. And there's America in a nutshell for you. Unity through hating other places. Supposedly this detour will be gone by fall. Hey, ADT sign. Taters often goes to resupply because she accuses me of gleefully grabbing candy. I went in and helped this time, and so we have Star Wars Oreos and all sorts of fun things. We were talking with one of the construction guys that back there about rail trails, just commenting on how I've done a fair amount walking across America in various spots, and I didn't really have much awareness of, rail trails as a thing. And he commented that, yeah, they seem like they were kind of getting more popular, and more of them were being built now, which does actually make me kind of hopeful. There was an organization that was working on basically sea-to-sea trails. The first one that was built was Salton Sea down to San Diego, the one that I did a few years ago, but that organization went bust, and even that one little segment basically barely exists anymore. But hey, if more states kind of buy into the Missouri model with the Katy Trail, that is really cool, and it makes it easier to travel. long distances without having to, risk some of these highways. And we are going to divert into town for very important reasons, aka a drink fountain, possibly a turkey wrap, maybe some candy. This is a depressing distance from trail, but totally worth it for an icy soda or 12. It's going to feel weird getting to the CDT overlap section and having to actually filter water again. And behold, our very reasonable water haul. Only because Taters wouldn't let me get donuts. We are headed back to trail, slightly more hydrated and happier. So it looks like that this Flint Hills trail might be similar to the Katy Trail in that they installed something at all the whistle stops, which are about every 10 or 12 miles. Less signage about it though, so we don't know which stops have what. Well, that's going to make my cat hole activities all the more fun. Five o'clock, while it has been warm today, it has not been humid, aka these are about the best conditions we can hope for anytime soon. So we are actually looking at pushing on a little further. We're about 18 miles in right now. In 11 miles, there is some sort of an RV campground. So barring major complication or a change in spirits, we think we're gonna see if we can push on to that in another 4 hours or so. The one thing that may impact us here, I, for some reason, got this weird heel blister. It was one of those that by the time I noticed it and I stopped to look at it, it was too late. So I have it taped. I've been dealing with it as well as I can, but it's kind of on the painful side. So that might be the one thing that pulls us up a little short if I can't get that into a more workable configuration for the night. Okay, looks like we're gonna make it. A bit of begged water here, but Jen likes the idea of this RV camp. I like the idea of getting over 25 miles in a day, so that's gonna be our plan. So I have been noticing a bunch of pine trees all of a sudden. I don't know if we're just getting into their zone or what, but it's really promising when it comes to campsite possibilities, since they tend to not have a lot of ground cover under them. Hey, look! It's one of those things that nobody on the internet knew what it was. .45, and presumably that is Jen's RV park that she wants to stay at. So we are doing a bit of a compromise here. Personally, I would rather stealth camp out on the trail, a little quieter, but Jen is more comfortable here, so I think this is where we're going to be.
Camp tonight is a campground off the trail. Seems like mostly a residential RV campground, but they have a little grassy patch set aside for tent campers. Downside, it is right next to a busy highway, so we do have a lot of noise. Upside was it let us do a long day with a water source at the end of the day, so we didn't have to do a heavy water carry at the end of the day. And we ended up with about 28 miles, the last couple of which were really quite enjoyable evening miles with the sun setting into the corn. We'll still be on this Flint Ridge rail trail for all day, at least the next 2 days as well. So looking forward to some more fairly relaxing, straightforward hiking with some nice views along the way. Home sweet home for the night.